Welcome into all the Sagittarius rising signs of the zodiac to July 2025 astrology video. I'm Cosmic Girl. Trust you're doing well, and thank you for being here. Okay, so this month we have three planets going into a retrograde. We'll talk about what that means, and we're going to talk about the lunations, the astrology of the transits of the month, and of course, we're going to talk about your chart ruler, Jupiter. So sit back and relax and enjoy all the astro information for the month that is July 2025. So let's now talk about the part of your chart which is the 10th house Sagittarius rising, because Mars is here in your natal 10th house of Virgo, which is your house of career, your public identity and image. It's the house of achievement, and it's the house of anything official to do with authority figures. So this transit of Mars for the whole month of July may feel very pressurized. Whether you are feeling the heaviness of demand, you have to show up, you have to put your best foot forward. Mars can really help you identify if you need to pull back or really put your pedal to the metal with this transit. Mars in Virgo is fantastic for strategically intellectualizing and streamlining your public name, your public image, and what you do in a professional arena. So, this is really good for promotion, and it's also really good for having clashes of ego in the workplace, competition. So, the transit of Mars in your natal 10th house for the whole month of July can feel like a lot, can be overwhelming at times. Mars is your 12th house ruler and 5th house ruler. So this can also, for you, with this transit of Mars in Virgo for the whole month of July, have you really focusing on what you do professionally. Does it give you a sense of enjoyment? Do you have the freedom to be your individual self? Or do you feel you need to step away from responsibility? It'll be a double edged sword kind of transit for the Sagittarius risings with Mars in Virgo in your natal 10th house for the whole month of July. So, know your own natal planets. What natal planets are in your natal 10th house? Mars is really rubbing up against them, really energizing them for better or worse. You may be in a position to really excel with this transit, or you may also be considering how to step away from responsibility. Really interesting transit for the Sagittarius rising signs out there. Let's talk about your chart ruler now. Jupiter is your chart ruler. Sag rising is your avatar in this incarnation. Lucky you. And Jupiter for the month of July is transiting in Cancer in your natal 8th house, where Jupiter is exalted, functions very well in the moon sign of Cancer. In fact, Jupiter will be here until the 30th of June 2026. So I won't labor too much on this transit. I've done so in previous videos, but in short, this is where you take ownership of your own emotions and where you find and seek fulfillment. What is it that ticks your boxes with this transit? What needs to be shed, released, let go of? It's like being in a day spa for a year and change, where you start to really feel into and seek out other people, places, and faces that emotionally tick your boxes, and where other people in any capacity drain you. So this transit is transformative. Jupiter is your chart ruler. It rules your natal first house of your body, your image, your health, your identity, who you are. And when it's transiting exalted in Cancer until the 30th of June 2026, then this transit bodes well for you as a Sag rising to start new things that really do fill your cup. So for the whole month of July, this is what you're feeling out. Who, what, where, and why emotionally supports you or drains you, or what new beginnings need to happen for you that really is near and dear to your heart. That is what's happening for you in the whole month of July with Jupiter transiting in Cancer in your natal 8th house and keeping in your back pocket. Your chart ruler will be here until the 30th of June 2026. So you can take emotional ownership of understanding and identifying what really does fill your soul. And that could be factoring in how other people do that for you or potentially drain you. Okay, on the 4th of July, we have Venus conjunct Uranus, Venus ingress into Gemini, and then Neptune begins its retrograde in Aries. So the 4th of July astrologically has a lot going on. So we'll talk about these individually. But before I get into that, I'd like to say happy 4th of July to all my US listeners out there. I hope you have a wonderful day of celebration. Okay, so Venus conjunct Uranus. This is about your workplace. And this is about services and your sense of service. It's the house of illness and injury and sickness and labor. Doesn't sound too fun, does it? But we always have to get up, brush our teeth, have a shower, cook breakfast, go to work, feed the dog, go for a walk, look after our health. Lots of stuff that we do in the sixth house is very laborious and routine. So when Venus conjuncts Uranus, the planet of liberation and freedom, on the 4th of July, then there's something in your everyday space that is getting an upgrade. Whether that is releasing a service or work that you engage with, or start to really feel into something that you do on the daily that is almost extraordinary. Uranus is the planet of awakenings. And when Uranus is conjuncting Venus, then we're awake and aware of what we love and value that we do on the day to day. Be it for better or worse, do we need to put our best foot forward with things that we do on the daily, or do we need to let something go? It will be very subjective for all of us on the 4th of July when we have an aha moment of what is near and dear to our heart that's habitual, if it's serving us, or if we need to cut away from it. Interesting day on the 4th of July. Then Venus ingresses into Gemini, into your natal 7th house, an angular part of your natal chart, no less, until the 30th of July. So this is a really quick transit. Venus is at top speed here in the solar system. So with Venus zooming through Gemini, your natal 7th house of relationships and partnerships, then it will be the people that you knock shoulders with of an intimate or professional capacity that are going through changes, quick changes. This could be a lot of back and forth dialogue between you and other people, or a relationship in your life is going through a transition. You may also seek out services for this transit. You may start connecting with people being of a client base, or you may be connecting with professionals that can help you in a personal way with Venus in Gemini in your natal 7th house from the 4th of July to the 30th of July. Now, the chart ruler of Gemini is actually Mercury, and Mercury is in Leo, your natal 9th house, and it's sextiling that 7th house. The 9th and 7th house is sextiling one another. So this astrologically also indicates for the Sag risings that whoever you're partnering up with may have a connection to esotericism, or they may be foreign to you, long distance from you, or have a sense of higher education that can help you or that you can lean on. Partners of any capacity may be traveling more or wanting to educate themselves more with this transit as well, because Mercury is the ruler of Gemini and it's in the natal 9th house of expansion. So really quite lively transit. So expect anyone that you knock shoulders with, be it intimate or otherwise, it's going to be a lot going on, a lot of back and forth, a lot of traveling, a lot of talk, and it may also be a time when you are seriously considering your value systems. So you may be talking about finances, crunching numbers with partnerships, be it intimate or otherwise, with Venus in your natal 7th house of Gemini from the 4th of July to the 30th of July. Then the last thing that happens on the 4th of July, it's a big day, huh? Neptune begins its retrograde in Aries in your natal 5th house at 2 degrees. So Neptune hasn't moved very far into Aries in your natal 5th house. So I'm not too concerned about this because Neptune hasn't been in your natal fifth house enough to have a serious impact, but I'm sure astrologically that for the Sagittarius rising signs, you have potentially started to look into your future in what ticks your boxes in a different way. Maybe you're seeking out new things, be that with romantic partners, children, an artistic or creative endeavor, something that's near and dear to your heart. Maybe since the 30th of March, you've had a new interest. And Neptune is about the visionary, the future. So when Neptune goes into a retrograde on the 4th of July at 2 degrees, from March 30 to now, what is it that you've been interested in? What have you tried to break through and start something new in regards to your house of joy and pleasure? Be that through an artistic endeavor, children, partnerships, romance, or anything fertile, something you want to grow. Neptune, when it retrogrades, sort of gives you the results. What you believe in, how's that actually working out for you? And what and if anything at all needs to be changed to keep that train going, to hit your future goals. That's what's going on with Neptune retrograde in the natal fifth house at 2 degrees from the 4th of July moving forward. On the 7th, Venus is sextiling Saturn and retrograde Neptune and shining retrograde Pluto. In short, relationships in your life of any capacity should be easy to connect with, reach. So I would use the 7th of July in a practical sense of having DMs with relationships in your life, any partners in your life. Talk things out. Venus here is receptive and open to communication. So if you need to have that talk, the 7th of July would be a beneficial day to have a talk, whether it be an intimate talk or a professional talk. Great day for communication with Venus and Gemini, making all these positive sextiles and trines to the outer planets and Saturn. Okay, so this is a very important part of the video, Sag Rising, because on the 7th of July, Uranus is ingressing into Gemini, into your natal 7th house, that angular part of your natal chart. And this is a big shift for your relationships and partnerships. Now, Uranus hasn't been in Gemini for 84 years, so this astrologically is a very big deal. I won't labour on it too much, simply because I'm going to be putting a future video out about this transit. Because Uranus, even though it's ingressing into Gemini on the 7th, it's going to be retrograding back into your natal 6th house of Taurus. And then we will be going forward into your natal 7th house of Gemini again come April 2026, where it will be for over 7 years. So it's a really, really long transit of Uranus in your natal 7th house. So this is like a soft opening. It sort of gives you a peek into the future when Uranus steps into your natal 7th house of Gemini on the 7th of July. So let's talk about this. So if you haven't subscribed, do so. Hit the bell notification button and you will be alerted when I put out a future video about Uranus transit in Gemini for all the zodiac signs. Okay. I like this astrologically. This is great. Now, Uranus is the planet that is the awakener. It snaps you into now. Open your eyes. Look. It shocks you into the now. Uranus's function archetypally is about shock and awe and change and disruption and freedom and liberation all in one. That's what Uranus means. Now, Uranus is a generational planet. It's an outer planet. So when we think of Uranus transiting for you as a Sag rising in your natal 7th house of Gemini, think of generational changes with relationships and partnerships that you connect with, people that you shake hands, sign on the dotted line, put a ring on it, people that you proactively connect with. That's your natal 7th house, where you partner up, whether that be intimately or professionally, or with a client or with people. That's your natal 7th house, where Uranus is. Now, Uranus will be very, for better words, abrupt with this transit for you. Now, that doesn't mean that you're abrupt. It's your relationships and people in your life that are going through a transition, a big upgrade. Because Uranus's function is to almost feel like out with the old, in with the new. So when you think of that being your relationships house, then you're bringing in new people, places, and faces that stimulate you. Maybe are more into future endeavors. They want to go further. They're more intellectual. They're odd. They're peculiar. They run against the status quo. So maybe with this transit, astrologically, for you as a Sagittarius, you're seeking out different people that stimulate you, that are left field thinkers, people that can take you into the distance and take you into a new stratosphere, and you connect with them and you happily skip along with them. But with that, when you have people that you can connect with that are, for better words, out of the box thinkers, that's going to change you. And if relationships in your life of any nature are becoming out of the box thinkers and they're more interested in freedom and liberation, then this may be a transit where you change up the dynamics of your intimate relationships. So there are relationships that are like polyamorous. There are relationships that people have, 7 wives. Think of that sort of thing. And it's just you and your partner. No one needs to know about this, but maybe you're changing up your sense of marriage and relationship with this transit of Uranus and Gemini. Whether that's spending less time together, traveling away from one another, you doing your thing and them doing their thing. Uranus's function is to create freedom and liberation. So it can also be a transit where you want to move away from people and away from relationships and do your own thing. So if you have had a relationship, for better words, that's been on the rocks, then with Uranus coming here in Gemini, you'll have plenty of opportunity to communicate and nut out where the problems are and move in a new direction, or come to peace and a resolution where you can finally let go of a relationship or a partnership of any nature that has been in a rocky mode for some time. So it's going to be an interesting one with Uranus and Gemini in our 7th house, beginning on the 7th of July. Okay, on the 10th, we have our first lunation of the month, and it's a full moon in Capricorn. It's at 18 degrees, lighting up your natal second house. So that second house is your livelihood, assets, possessions, and your skills. So think of the full moon where you have a peak moment of emotional understanding, and something's on show here because the moon is very showy. You can see something. So when you see your natal second house lit up with skills, assets, finances, possessions, then you're emotionally aware of what ticks your boxes. You're emotionally aware of what's got the goods to keep you engaged, to keep you moving forward. You may have a lot of recognition, if you will, in regards to your skills. So someone may see you, Sagittarius rising, as an asset on this day, and you feel recognized and seen, and you feel like you've got a sense of achievement or accomplishment. And not that everyone's seeking a pat on the back, but this day may be the day where you do get that. And being the moon and Jupiter, your chart ruler is in the moon's sign of Cancer in your natal 8th house, opposing that second house. So I wonder too, for the Sagittarius rising signs, if you're ready to graduate and put to death something that doesn't emotionally fulfill you anymore, whether that's a financial service, an old way of engaging with a person, a debt, or something to do with an inheritance can be up in the spotlight, for better or worse, on the 10th of July. Very interesting, a full moon. On the 13th, we have Saturn now beginning its retrograde in Aries, joining retrograde Neptune in your natal 5th house. So we talked about that fifth house. It's what you artistically love. It's what you want to begin. It's sex. It's fertility. It's romance. It's children. Fifth house is where we get our motor going. And with Saturn now retrograding at only 1 degree in Aries, then I'm not too overly concerned about this either because it's only moved 1 degree. Now, Saturn is the planet that demands maturity. It demands focus. It's seeking results. So when Saturn retrogrades on the 13th of July, moving forward, then you can start to see what it takes, what hard yards need to be put into children, anything that you artistically connect with, sex, romantic partners. What is it that needs to keep going? And it's going to take time and effort. Saturn retrograde now from the 13th of July will really have you aware of what emotionally gives you joy and pleasure, and if it's laborious or if the juice is worth the squeeze. Interesting transit with Saturn retrograding in your natal fifth from the 13th of July. Okay, and on the 13th of July, we've got retrograde Saturn and retrograde Neptune, sextiling retrograde Pluto, Uranus and Gemini trining retrograde Pluto, and Uranus sextiling retrograde Saturn and retrograde Neptune. So, in short, the out of generational planets and Saturn are all talking in harmony on the 13th of July. So, this indicates that you really are tuning into your sense of your environment, things that you love, people that you connect with, and how they all are affecting you. What is it about things that go around you on the daily that are really ticking your boxes, or maybe you may feel a little bit overwhelmed on the 13th of July and you may need to take a day. You may need to take a bit of a break on the 13th of July with all these connections with the outer planets and Saturn. Interesting. On the 18th, we have Mercury now retrograding in Leo in your natal ninth house at 15 degrees, and it'll go direct at 4 degrees on August 11 next month. So Mercury traversing through your natal ninth house of travel, foreigners, foreign places, religion, esotericism, higher education. Mercury's interested in movement and intellectual stimulation. So if you've been really putting your heart and soul in opening up your mind, body, spirit, and soul to the world at large, then when Mercury goes into a retrograde on the 18th of July, you get to see the results, if you will, of what you've been engaged in when it comes to the ninth house. What is it about growth and expansion that really has a hold on you? And from the 18th of July moving forward until August 11 when it goes direct, you'll be able to really feel out and intellectualize if you're on the right path, what it's going to take to keep you engaged in something that's bigger than you, physically, mentally, spiritually, and metaphysically. Really interesting transit when Mercury retrogrades in Leo in your natal ninth house on the 18th of July. And when Mercury does go into a retrograde on the 18th, it's sextiling Venus. Now, remembering that Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, where Venus is in the natal seventh house of relationships and partners. So, what I'm getting here for the Sagittarius rising signs is a commitment to a relationship, whether that's through education, esotericism, religion, travel, or doing something that's foreign or different to you. You're sort of partnering up and agreeing to go the distance together on the 18th of July. Beautiful day. Okay, on the 22nd, we see the sun leave Cancer, your natal eighth house where your chart ruler is. And now the sun is ingressing into Leo, its sign of domicile. So the sun is the ruler of Leo. So functions very well in your natal ninth house. So from the 22nd of July to August 22nd, the sun is inspiring you to put your heart and soul into opening up with different people, places, and faces, things that are foreign to you, distant from you, religion, esotericism, educating yourself, getting out there in the world, whether that be mentally, physically, spiritually, or metaphysically. The sun is shining on your ninth house. Now, the sun is in its joy in the natal ninth house, and this is the house of God through Hellenistic teachings. So we think of the word God, we go, well, God can be many things. It's our beliefs. It's what we find value in the natal ninth house. So with the sun transiting here from the 22nd of July to the 22nd of August, your heart and soul is believing in what you love. And that opens up your world. So for me, what I'm getting for the Sagittarius rising signs is an energetic boost. You really are, dying on the sword, if you will, about what you love and value with this transit. And you're not budging, and you're certainly injecting a lot of energy towards opening up. So planning something like a course, something divinatory, planning to learn a new language, maybe take a cooking class, uh, plan a pilgrimage, maybe learn something new that's a little bit more niche, high end, like go to university or study something that's going to take a lot of focus. The sun in Leo is saying yes to life. What do you love and value? What do you believe in? The sun really has you focused on opening up. So beautiful transit. The sun's in its own sign. It's very happy and content. Your chart ruler Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, right next door in that natal eighth house. So this, for me, astrologically, also indicates that something really nourishing and emotionally supportive is coming in to help you open up and really validate what you love and believe in, and working well together, whether it's individually or with someone. Beautiful transit from the 22nd of July to the 22nd of August. Lovely. And when the sun does ingress into Leo on the 22nd, it's sextiling Uranus. Now, Uranus hasn't been in Gemini for 84 years, so this is very big. Now, Uranus is in Gemini, in your natal seventh house with Venus, and it's sextiling the natal ninth house, where the sun is in domicile in Leo, with Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, where Uranus is. So what I'm getting here on the 22nd of July, with the sun sextiling Uranus in Gemini in your natal seventh house from your ninth house, is a big yes, a new step forward, like taking someone's hand, be it an intimate relationship or a partner of any nature, and saying, yes, let's do this together. So you could be making an abrupt, almost uncharacteristic decision on this day to boldly step into a new experience with someone. And that could be with anything foreign, a travel destination, learning something new, anything religious, esoteric, something you really value and love, someone, a partner, someone you can team up with, is on the same page with you, and you confidently move forward into a new direction that opens up your world. It's a beautiful day on the 22nd of July. Enjoy it. Oh boy, on the 24th of July, there's a lot going on astrologically. We've got the sun trining retrograde Saturn and retrograde Neptune, the sun opposing Pluto, Venus squaring off with Mars, and then a new moon in Leo at 2 degrees. Whew, a lot going on. In short, do not let people, places, and faces keep you small and trapped from moving forward confidently in towards what you love and enjoy. Simple as is what the astrology is saying with all these alignments and connections on the 24th of July. The big news is on new moon in Leo, in your natal ninth house of God, of expansion. What a new moon. Not forgetting that your chart ruler Jupiter is exalted in the moon sign in your natal eighth house of shared resources, other people's finances, death and inheritance. And you've got this new moon in the natal ninth house. So what I'm getting astrologically for the Sagittarius rising signs is you confidently stepping into a new environment, a new connection that really does feel your heart and soul. So this can be starting something new with the body, whether that's yoga or you learn a new religion or something to do with divination. You plan an international trip. You start to learn something that's foreign to you and your heart and soul is all in it. The 24th of July, if you get an opportunity may feel larger than life, take it. Do not feel confident enough that you cannot grow and expand. You can. So if you have an opportunity to step into, for better words, emperor's new clothes, don't look a gift horse in the mouth on the 24th of July. I would simply say yes to any new beginnings that open up your heart and soul. Beautiful day on the 24th of July. On the 30th, we have Venus now leave your natal seventh house of Gemini and ingress into Cancer, joining your chart ruler Jupiter until the 25th of August. So we've got the two benefics. Venus is the lesser benefic. Your chart ruler Jupiter is the greater benefic. So when the benefics are working in unison from the 30th of July to the 25th of August, boy, oh boy, are you in for a fabulous transit. Venus, remember, is the planet of relationship. She's the planet of value. She's the planet of art and beauty. And when she's transiting in your natal eighth house of other people, shared resources, death and inheritance, then you're attracted, really focused on getting emotional and nourishment from people and putting to death things that you don't value anymore. Let go of the dead wood, whether that be a relationship, something that has been laborious, like a debt, a financial drain. This would be the transit to let go and let be when the two benefics, Venus and Jupiter, are traversing through your natal eighth house from the 30th of July to the 25th of August. You may also have a serious upgrade in your finances from the 30th to the 25th of August with Venus in Cancer with your chart ruler Jupiter. Enjoy it. On the 31st, the last day of the month, we have the Sun conjunct retrograde Mercury. So that's happening in your natal ninth house, where there's been a lot of action this month for you as a Sagittarius rising sign. So a conjunction is when two planets mold into each other and the Sun lights up Mercury. So this is an aha moment. This is I get the green light. I understand. I now intellectually am focused. So when the Sun conjuncts Mercury on the 31st of July in your natal ninth house of focus and understanding of travel, education, foreigners, foreign places, the house of God, the house of beliefs, the house of esotericism, the house of religion, this is the day where you confidently say yes to life, to understanding you on a very intimate level. So this feels like a come to Jesus moment. That sounds dramatic, but it really does feel that way astrologically for the Sagittarius rising signs. When you have the Sun conjunct retrograde Mercury and you just feel it in your bones, that growth and expansion is what really fuels your heart and soul. The future is the way to go. This is the day where you get validation from outside of you or within yourself that you are on a new path and you're all up for it. Beautiful day on the 31st of July when the Sun conjuncts retrograde Mercury. That's your astrology for the month. I hope you have a fabulous one. Feel free to leave any comments in the comments section below. I'm Cosmic Girl 101, and I really do appreciate you spending time with me today, listening to astrology and enjoying the cosmos. Until next time, stay cosmic.